Hello and welcome again to Tai'Shar Manethrin Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Will.
We're here again to discuss A Path of Daggers. We're in part 5 of our part 7, 8 series, or
Eight,
something
I
like
think.
something like that. So we're moving through. We're making progress. So this week, Will's gonna give us a narrative breakdown. I'm gonna throw peanuts from the gallery.
Oh, sounds good. We're starting in chapter 13, Floating Like Snow.
Sting like a butterfly.
Right. Which, I mean, really, most of this book is relatively skippable. It would be kind of interesting to see if somebody skipped this entire book and
noticed
like how much, and we told them like the three main things that happen.
Like it's snowing now, and then the things that happen at the end.
Right, exactly. It's like that's basically it.
So you can skip the middle parts, and that'd be okay.
Yeah. So we're starting off with the Rand chapter. So while it is nice,
seen him.
Right.
Have we? I don't think. Chapter 13 is the first time we see Mr. Althor in this novel. Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
So that's a good chunk of the way in until we get to him.
It's nice to be hanging out with Rand.
I agree. As we've said before, I know some people don't like him because he's, edgelord, broody, or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's the main dude. Things happen.
He's the main character. Exactly.
That's the thing. Things don't happen when you're not around him. Or the Supergirls. Okay, so things happen around the Supergirls too, but more things happen around him.
Yeah. I do feel kind of like, though, this chapter was like a note from Harriet. Hey, wouldn't Samael have had a whole army that he was leading right before he died?
You need to take care of that.
And RJ was like, oh, super easy, barely an inconvenience. I'll just throw an extra chapter in here where Rand goes and threatens them a little.
Round them all up. Y'all come join my army or go home or I'm going to kill you.
Really, all that happens in this chapter is that Rand goes to visit what's left of Samael's army and goes out to the countryside and tells them to join him or go home and go home unarmed.
Right.
And then he says, I'll give you some time to decide. I mean, this chapter, it reminds me a little bit about the joke about the two folks that are eating at a nice restaurant. And one of them says, the food here is terrible. And the other one says, and in such small portions. I guess it's kind of stupid of me to complain that this chapter is both short and that nothing much happens in it. But it's odd how much of that. Look, I feel like it needs to be said. I love the Wheel of Time. I love these books.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying that because I feel like we need to. Like listening to our recent episodes, I am struck by some of our negativity.
Yes,
it's always like genuine and like honest. And like this is just where we're at, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
it's just this. I will say, like more
after
than
this book, it will be a lot less.
Yes, more than any other book. This book, it's got some pacing issues.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, I actually have the book. I got a copy from the library because anyway, the long story. And like I'll turn pages and like page after page of like just wall of like description with no dialogue. Like there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
There's too much of this is happening.
And so we most of the time, I hope you hear us through most of our talk throughs. We're gushing about these books, and how we like these things, and how mostly it's little nitpicks here and there. And so, it may feel like we're being a little more negative about this one, or a lot more negative about this one, because this is the one that it's kind of easy to rail on.
Because I feel like probably this is one where people give up.
Yeah,
this is probably a book where people get like, okay, I'm just done. This is boring.
So, I'm warning you that because in this episode, I'm still going to kind of do that.
And I will say the back half of this book was a lot more enjoyable to me than the front half. And we're still in the worst of it, but we're getting closer to when things happen and things are interesting and there's less of that.
I agree that there's more that feels like it happens, but it's all kind of, it's just weirdly spread out. Like in this episode of our podcast, not a whole lot is going to happen.
And then also in the next episode, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. We're building to several things happening. And neither of the big things has happened by the end of the next 2 episodes. But we're going to have fun. It's like one of our listeners said, I'll be listening to these chapters in my car on the drive home, and I'm still having a good time. It's still Wheel of Time. I'm still enjoying it. I just feel the need to say that it's sloggy because of thinking of those people that are reading it for the first time and don't know what goodness lies beyond.
Yes.
And so, I'm with you.
Exactly. Chapter 14, Message from the Mahale. And this is, I think, the only one that I said is actually worth at least skimming through.
Yeah.
And it's, some stuff actually happens. And really, this could have been more of the same chapter because we're still with Rand and it's not too much longer than the previous, which was pretty short. But, at least we have something interesting happening now, as the title suggests. Torval, one of the Ashamen, has shown up with a message for Rand from Taim. He reports on the growing numbers at the Black Tower and starts to make mention of the rebel Aes Sedai army, but Rand reminds him that they are not to attack the Aes Sedai.
Leave it alone. Read my lips.
Then an Ashman named Moore shows up and gives news of the Shan-Chan, and then mentions some place where the Aes Sedai weapon was used, though it wasn't weapon, it was the Bull of the Winds.
It was Accident.
Yep. And he talks about...
I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just sorry.
I don't know. That I feel like I feel... I don't know. I feel strange about that. I feel like that's on the table, and now we have to deal with it. And
it is. It's here. Here we are.
Yeah. Anyway, so Moore talks about how Saidin was acting odd there, maybe something to do with the use of the Bull of the Winds.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't remember if this ever is totally resolved. It comes up a few times.
It's weird. It should be. It should be resolved by what happens at the end of this book, but the fact that he says it's there when we can't talk about this until the end. I will. This is part of the feelings I have about a MacGuffin, and I will refrain until we get to all of the details and not spoil anyone who's not finished the book. So.
No problem. Hey, we could
have a spoiler section at the end of this one, but I really think I should wait until we get to that section.
Rand gives orders to all the Ashamen, and a super special secret best friend Pinky Swear orders to Narishma to go do something.
Right.
Luz Theron agrees with Rand's plan, and Rand is actually happy to have the crazy guy back in his head.
He's like, oh man, he's back. Yay.
And somewhere he begins to laugh. Just normal, sane people things.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag, it's the taint for me. Hashtag, not me going crazy. Hashtag, blessed. Chapter 15, Stronger Than Written Law.
Stronger than written law.
Skippity skip. This, you do learn some stuff in this, but it comes up again later, and so it's kind of like, I don't know that you really need it. This one starts off with one of Sam's favorite things. Egwene has another spoiler dream.
Oh, yay, our favorite montage.
Yes, this one's pretty short and just has 3 elements. First, Rand wearing different masks until one of the masks becomes the real him. Then Perrin and a tinker hacking away at brambles, unaware that they're approaching a cliff. And finally...
Who could that be?
Right. And finally, Mat weighing 2 Aes Sedai on giant scales. She decides she has no useful interpretation, though the second one seems pretty obvious. Like, warn Perrin that he's headed towards something.
Yeah, you have the power to reach into somebody's dreams. Just go tell him, man.
Well, and she knows how to travel at this point too.
That's true. Yeah, I just figure she can't, because of things.
Yeah, she's got stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
that must be why she's just sort of, I'm buried in paperwork. I just can't help him out.
Yeah, I got too much going on to be like, Perrin, I'm going to let you figure this out.
I had a dream. I don't know if it was gas or the pickles I ate, or or you really have a problem. Probably nothing, but
it's probably no big deal. Anyway, Swan shows up and says Gareth Bryn wants to meet Egwene in her study. They talk about some armies from Andor and Murundi, and they're going to have a talk to. They're going to want to talk to Egwene. And Egwene asks Bryn about how long until he thinks their army will be ready to lay siege to Darvalon. And Bryn is like, forget that. Where are you getting the copious amount of resources it takes to feed and supply an army of this size? Not to mention, where are these tents coming from? Who's funding this whole thing? I know that the White Tower seems to just sit on a pile of money, but where on earth do you generate the resources we have? And yes, I know in the next chapter you're going to stop to say that the resources are thin, but that doesn't explain what the resources came from in the first place. Nah, I'm just kidding. He doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that.
He says, yeah, we'll have that army ready for you in a month.
Yeah, ready to go, ma'am. Whatever you need. It's Burger King.
Got that army for you, boss.
I will say here, brief off topic. Sure. Brandon Sanderson clearly has thought about this because in the Way of Kings, Stormlight, he has soul casting, which is making grain out of physical objects with like a gizmo, and it's like not very good tasting grain. Like it's just like, yeah, we needed this for the army, and so we're here up in this fortress, and we can turn a rock into grain. It's like, that's so smart. That's a good idea, man. Yeah. He's like so many things that he clearly has thought through after helping write Wheel of Time, or maybe before too, but like, just thinking through in a like more practical sense like that.
Right. To some degree, I'm okay with it not making sense. And
I mean, because there's several times they talk about Egwene's like, well, we had to buy grain sort of forcefully from this farmer, and it's Jordan thinks about it for sure, but like, how how practical is it really? Especially when it starts snowing. But just kind of.
So Egwene tells Swan that she plans to free Aes Sedai of the Three O's. This is the thing that I was saying, it's kind of an important moment, but it comes up again later.
And Swan's like, how dare you?
Yes,
you're not on him right now. You're taking advantage of that situation. Stop that pearl clutching, lady.
Yes. Swan says that this would be so bad. How bad is it? It would be like sticking a fork in a toaster if that toaster were also a dumpster fire on a nuclear warhead.
Cool.
It would be so bad. It would be like continuing 2.5 Men after 2/3 of the leads have left the show. It would be so bad. It would be like Garth Brooks doing a rock album as an alternative persona called Chris Gaines. It would be so bad. It would be like hiring Billy McFarland as an event planner. It would be so bad. It would be like making a Broadway musical based on Spider-Man.
Oh, man, I wanted to see it.
It would be so bad. It would be like launching a video platform where all the episodes were just a few minutes long. It would be so bad. It would be like eating anything at Six Flags and then writing anything at Six Flags. It's so bad. It would be like making a new version of Coke that tasted more like Pepsi.
Yes.
It's so bad. It would be like having an opinion on the internet.
That's how you get answers to things, is having an opinion on the internet.
And it's so bad. It would be like telling someone who is freaking out to calm down.
Oh, yes, indeed.
And finally, it's so bad, it would be like adapting a beloved popular book series and not staying true to the source material.
Hey-o.
It is. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, preach.
That's how bad Swan thinks it would be without the Three O's. Anyway, after that, Swan says something about Brynn being worthy of her trust, and Egwene realizes that Swan's in love with the man. And
indeed.
Then she says a bunch of names of various Aes Sedai and says something about arranging a meeting, and I don't know, who cares? We'll catch up with them and figure out what she's talking about in a few seconds.
Check everybody's schedule and send out the meeting invite.
Yeah, and let's everybody get on Microsoft Teams. Mm-hmm. All right, chapter 16, Unexpected Absences. Skip. This is pretty much a hard skip. Continuing the trend of sticking with one person for multiple chapters, we're sticking with Egwene, who calls a meeting. Gosh, I'm glad that we're finally taking a break from this fast-paced, action-packed series of chapters that we've been having at this breakneck speed, which the plot has been moving so fast, and so many things have been happening that I could really use a breather. So,
I hate to say it, like, when I think of the slog, like after, when I haven't read the books in a while, it's not Egwene's fault, but the thing I think I hate the most about the slog is Aes Sedai politicking. I mean, really, it's like that. You can sum it up with that. Like, if I just got rid of all that, it would be a lot better.
Well, to me, it's not just like the politics, because when it actually gets around to things happening, I was going to
say there's a chapter here that's really good.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's like one of Aes Sedai politicking.
Right. But where it's just like, okay, hey, let's have a meeting. And what is this meeting for?
We're going to go ride a horse somewhere. We're going to talk on the horse. And
we do find out that they don't have many resources left for their army. Okay, but this just brings up that where have the resources been for the past few months? How have they gotten those?
Right.
Maybe I'm the only one bothered by this. Yeah, so anyway.
Traveling. I'm sure it's traveling.
Yes, there you go. The meeting is like, hey, we're running out of resources and we're going to stop for a few days. And then we move on to a brief Arengar perspective. Arengar is burying a body in the snow, and then we switch back to Egwene. Wait, what? Why?
What
was that? Why? So, what was going on with that?
Whose body was that? We find out, but
it's like too late. We're moving on. All right. Egwene's perspective again. Yeah. Ramanda shows up and wants to talk about the sea folk, but then Lelaine totally shows up and is like, nuh-uh, I want to talk about the sea folk. And they're like, we can totes get messages to them in Tela and Hemorrhoid. And Chesa enters and mentions that Mari seems to have wandered off. Later she says Salame, or I don't know, is nowhere to be found. And neither is Vimilda, Fantine, Broomhilda, Aloysius, or Bonquiki. And where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Lately, I've been pitching a new version of the game show Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, hosted by Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay,
and then for the chief, you either have Tina Fey or Maya Rudolph. And like I could see either one working really well. But then, and this is the key, you have Pentatonics do the theme and the sketches. And then, like, they had, I don't know if you remember, but they had like celebrity types that would be the informants and do little video clips. And so, like, to me, it's like you got to get Taika Waititi, Awkwafina, Rob Riggle, Randall Park, and like the whole cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right.
To be in those. So then Egwene is talking to Swan, who points out that the sitters are younger than usual.
So?
Exactly.
Well, why do we care? Why is that important?
May not be relevant, just a fun fact is basically what this... She's like, something to think about, I guess.
And I honestly, I don't know if this comes up later and it's like, oh, that's what Sarge wanted. I don't know. I don't know if I care.
I feel like it does, but it's I don't know if it's like I think it's just a minor
kind of weird. Yeah, I can picture it being like, maybe I'm remembering it, so I don't want to spoil it. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I was about to speculate, but I might speculate too accurately. So
yes, there you go. Then Lelaine shows up and tells Swan to leave, and then she talks to Egwene disrespectfully, saying that when they meet Pelivar, that Egwene is to let Lelaine handle the interaction, and that Egwene isn't really the one who's in charge. And then she leaves, and Ramanda shows up and does the exact same thing. And each woman thinks that Egwene is going to do what she says, and it's pretty clear that Egwene isn't.
Yes.
And this is kind of interesting because, you do get some kind of satisfactory stuff. But also, the tough thing about it is I have a hard time really liking stuff where the sum effect is nothing comes of that. And to me, it feels like we kind of dealt with this already back when Egwene first became the Amerlin, that there was all this like, oh, you're not really in charge, and she kind of already dealt with that. So this feels like a rehashing to me.
It does. And this is not quite the last time that happens. I
know it. I know it's kind of an ongoing thing, and I get that. Like she's a young leader,
but it does feel like stroke for stroke, like.
Yeah,
same.
It feels very similar.
The same dance with different details.
Right. Yeah, it feels very similar to like kind of what she went through with Shiriam at the beginning.
Yeah.
And anyway, speaking of Shiriam, we swap to Shiriam perspective. Some unnamed person shows up and beats Shiriam, demanding more information on Egwene, and we don't get anything else than that. So, we could speculate on that. I don't want to spoil anything, but you don't really know what's happening there.
Right.
So chapter 17, out on the ice. Okay. The big conflict.
Yeah.
That we've been building towards for the last few chapters. This meeting with the Anduran and Mirandy officials. This is sure to be intriguing. I mean, something has to happen in this chapter, right?
Man.
The stakes are at least medium at this point. We're talking about armies here. Something has to occur that is worth reading here. For sure.
Something about chairs, I think, is what we come up with.
I don't want to undervalue the development of Gawain's role as the rightful Amerlin, because I know that's all what we're supposed to be learning here.
Yeah. That's the point, right?
To me, it's like you have these interesting things that are happening amidst what, like I said, feels like just kind of rehearsing, just going over all of these kind of same paths again about, oh yeah, the women don't respect her and everything. And in the midst of this, you get the stuff with Arengar and Shiriam that is kind of more interesting, but it's like, oh, this happened, and back to a meeting.
Right.
Anyway, basically, you could skip this chapter, and I'll tell you about the one thing that happens at the end that's kind of interesting. So Egwene doesn't let Lelaine or Ramonda speak, which surprises them, but not us. Egwene says that the Aes Sedai, the rebel Aes Sedai, will rest for a month in Murundi, but she says it's cool because they'll totally spend some of that money that they got in the area to stimulate the local economy. You know, the money that's running out, but not really. And where did it come from? Okay, sorry. Okay, last time, I promise. She then says that they won't even go into Andor, and the Andorans are like, then why are we even in this scene? And all of us are like, solid point. And finally, Egwene closes the conference by saying, BT dubs, and it's totally like Steve Jobs' One More Thing.
Right, of course.
Where the one more thing is the big thing
or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Before there was an iPad.
Right.
iPad was a bad example. Anyway.
The Mac Pro or the iPod with video, I remember was a big one when that happened. But she's like, oh yeah, one more thing. The novice book is now open to any woman regardless of age. So, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, just a little detail.
And of course, you can imagine Ramonda
shock the world.
Lelaine is probably not too happy with this, and everybody is like, what? That, as they say, is that chapter. I gotta say, as you probably noticed, I padded that thing pretty hard, and we managed to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters.
Right.
In a half hour.
24 minutes, yeah.
I can remember that. I think at some point during Lord of Chaos, we probably spent a full hour on fewer chapters.
Yeah, we did for sure.
Anyway, this is all I'm saying, guys. I love these books, but it's kind of clear there's not as much going on in these chapters.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Contact us at our website, tsmpodcast.com. You can fill out our contact form or email us if you prefer emailage. It's stuff@tsmpodcast.com, and we'll talk about you. You can subscribe to us on our socials, rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week, Tai'Shar Manetheren.